In this how-to, we are going to learn how to update records into the database. For this demonstration, I have created one simple form, and naturally I am using the same database table that I was using throughout this edu.net demonstration videos. So here is my edu.net form. Let me delete my old data. Okay, and then I am also creating the code behind code now. So this is my code behind code. I'm just exactly copying pasting. I'm just removing all my older code from this page. And now let me copy all those methods one by one. So here is my page load method. I'm going to explain each and every method one by one, so please do not worry about this. So this is my page load, and then we have one more method called populate the data in edit mode. Okay, I will explain all these codes. Okay, let me first create all these codes here. Looks like there is some problem here in this code, so I'm just going to rectify these codes. So here is some code here. Yes. Now we need one more method here called fetch records. This will basically populate the record from the database to on the page. So here is my fetch records. Yes, and then we have some more method here. Naturally this is a little more code because updating is a little tricky, so please bear with it. Yes, and then the last method is update record. As I said, I am going to explain all these methods one by one. Okay, and yes, so looks like I am done. Some little problem is there in this code, and then I'm just rectifying all of them. Yes, so we are done. Now notice that we will have to use some more namespaces, and that namespace is using system.text because I am going to use a string builder here. Now my code is ready. First let's talk about ASPX page. In this ASPX page we have a HTML table. In that table we have a text box called txt first name, then another text box called txt last name, and then another text box called txt age, and then we have a active drop down whose item is yes and no. Two items are there, and then we have a button called submit. On click of this button we are executing a submit data server side method. Here is the submit data server side method. Let me show you this submit data server side method. Now let us come to the code behind here. There's nothing into this ASPX page now. Now in the code behind, first we have a page level variable called _constr that will basically retrieve the connection string of the web.config file and save into the _constr variable. And then in the page load method, or sorry, in the page load event under if not is post back, what we are doing is that we are first trying to see whether this page is coming with any query string value or not. Let us not talk about this. Let us first come here. Okay, because when the first time this page will be loaded, there will be no query string. I will talk about this later on. So when the page will be loaded for the first time, naturally this each post back will be false, so it will directly come here because there will not be any query string, and it will execute this fetch records method. Now in the fetch records method, let us go to the fetch records method. What is happening is that it is instantiating this data table, then instantiating the SQL connection, and then it is executing this select statement where I am retrieving all the records from the personal detail table, filling into this data table, and then we are using the string builder and we are concatenating all these records from the data table and putting it into the, or writing it into the label called LBL data. We will have to create one label, so let us create one label here. ASP label ID equal to LBL data, run it equal to server, enable view state equal to false. Okay, so this is it. Now let us run this page. Let me close this page, and now let us run this page from this beginning. So here is my page, as you can see, because there is no query string here, so you can see that it will simply come, it will simply come to this particular, not each post back, because this is not post back, and it will not go into this particular block. It will simply fetch, it will simply call the fetch records method, and that fetch records method basically execute the select statement and loop through all the records of the data table, and it will simply write one link called edit link, and along with that other records value. So here is my all records of this particular personal detail table with the edit link. Now what happens is that you can notice that all these edit link, notice this status bar here, all these edit link have a query string called auto ID equal to 5, auto ID equal to 6, and this 5 or 6 is nothing but the auto ID value of this particular record. You can see here, you can see that this is all 1 2 3 4 1 3 5 6 7, all are auto ID value. So what because I am going to edit this record, so naturally I will have to retrieve this particular record and populate into this text box. Then only I will be able to modify those value and then update it. So for that purpose, what I am doing is that I have kept edit link against each record, and in that edit link what is happening is that I am passing the auto ID as the query string value. Now when I will click this link, what will happen is that the page will be redirected on the on itself with the query string as auto ID. You can see here, notice the status bar here. For example, I have mouse over on edit link for record ID equal to 5. So here you can see that it is default.aspx and auto ID equal to 5. So when I will click this, what happens is that it is redirected to the same page with auto ID is equal to 5 as a query string. Now when auto ID is 5, then what happens is, because it is also not post back, it is simply redirect with the query string, so it comes into this block and it checks whether the query string is null or white space. Naturally it is not null because this query string value is 5, so it will come into this loop and it will pass the query string value into the integer, and it will save that 5, whatever query string value, in this case it is 5, into the ID variable, and I am checking if this ID is equal to 0, then call this populate the data in edit mode method by passing the ID. It means that in this case ID is 5, so 5 will be passed into this method. So let us go to this method here. Now in this method what we are doing is that we are instantiating this data table, then instantiating this SQL connection by passing the connection string, and then we are executing the select statement where auto ID is 5, means we are getting this auto ID and we are executing the select statement and filling into this data table. And then now, because we will have to give all the current columns value into this text box so that user will be able to update it, so I am retrieving all the values one by one using the data row and populating into the text box and the drop down, and we are changing that button text to update. So you can see that all the records has been populated sorry, all the column values has been populated. First name is Michael, and then second last name is Sumakar, and age is 45, and it is true. True means yes. Now what will and then what we are doing is then we are keeping one view state of auto ID equal to the ID value, means in this case it is 5. So view state of auto ID will be saved as 5. This view state we are going to use in the when the user will click the submit button. So now what will happen is that when we will click update button, notice that this button text has been changed to update, so that's why it is coming update now. So when we will click the update button, what will happen? This submit data server side method will fire. So let us go to the submit data server side method. Here is my submit data server side method. Now here in this method we are checking if view state of auto ID is not null. Naturally view state of auto ID will not be null because we have stored the ID value. So if view state of auto ID is not null, then call the update records method. So update record method will be called by passing the view state value as the parameter. Now let us go to the update record method. So here is my update record method, and in this we have first returned value as integer variable where its value has been specified as 0, and then we have instantiated the SQL connection, and then we are writing the update SQL statement. In this update SQL statement we are setting the values first name, last name, age and active, where auto ID is equal to the value, the ID value that is coming from. So in this case 5 is coming from, so 5. And then we are creating an array of SQL parameter, and naturally it's the size of the array will be 5 because we have 5 parameters here, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And we are setting all those values like txt first name, txt last name, txt age and drop active dot selected value, and auto ID will be naturally ID because that's what is being passed. And then we are calling the execute non-query method by opening the connection, and once the execute non-query method has been called, then we are simply closing the connection. And then because this execute non-query method returns the number of rows affected, and that was being saved into the return value integer variable, so we are checking for that variable. If that variable is not equal to 0, it means that record has been updated successfully, and then we are setting the view state of auto ID is equal to null because I am done with the update for that particular record. And we are calling the fetch records method again so that the updated record will be listed here. Let me update this. I am writing Sumakar 1 as the last name, and first name as Michael 1, and age as a 4. Now you can see that this record should change. So let me click update, and now you can see that Michael 1, Sumakar 1, 4 and 2 record updated successfully. Now let me walk through all the steps that we have followed to update the record to the database. So first what we did, we have listed the records. On click of edit, we are redirecting to the same page with the auto ID, and using this auto ID we are populating the records into the edit mode, and then user will update the record, means write whatever value he want to write in the form, and when he will click update, then what will happen is using the view state that we had stored here that is being checked, and update record method is being called, and that is basically executing the update SQL statement and calling the execute non-query method of the SQL command that is actually going to the database and updating.